Hello, welcome to Jack's Curated Business Ideas, presented by Jack Lookman and Juwon Ogungbe. We shall share great content on curated business ideas and related topics. This could benefit entrepreneurial minds, unemployed persons, and those seeking alternative or complementary income streams. You are welcome.
Yes, so hello, good day. This is Juwon Ogungbe, and I am here as a moderator to talk to Jack Lookman because last week we had a conversation about one of his products, which is called Jack's Flexi Jotter. And this week, Jack Lookman is going to tell us more about this product, and hopefully that will be of interest to everyone. So, welcome, Jack. Hello.
Hello, Brother Juwon. Thank you very much. Yes, as Brother Juwon mentioned, I'm going to dig a bit deeper into Jack's Flexi Jotter, and hopefully I'm going to do a book around it and also do a blog and ebook for those who are interested. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to be reading some of the points from the spreadsheet. So bear with me. Documents. Okay, here it is. Okay, so awesome. Okay, so Jack's Flexi Jotter. Um, it's basic. Sorry, where is it? No, let me minimize this. Okay, so what's Jack's Flexi Jotter? It's basic. It basically consists of a folder or file and refillable paper, as well as complementary products. It's about selling, the idea is about selling Jack's Flexi Jotter and related products. Now, the products should be durable, and there should be a good look and feel and ease of use. Now, the target markets are students, creatives, professionals, and other related people. Now, the product itself, the main product is paper, perforated paper. This could be A5 or it could be A6. And then there will be the file in which you are going to put in the paper. The file is going to have two rings, and then you put in the perforated paper there. In addition to the file and the perforated paper, other complementary products are treasury tags, pens, and you might want to have a storage box which will host most of the paper. And then if you want to go further, you might add a paper repairer. So for example, if when you perforate paper during the course of usage, the paper might get torn by the perforated bits. So you might want to consider a perforated paper repairer. I don't think that product is in the market, but it's just something that can give you food for thought for later on. Now, the file itself can come in different variants. You can have file of different sizes. You can have A5, you can have A6. You could have them in different colors. You could have them in different designs and different texture. You can have them of different prices. Now the paper, you could have the paper in different colors, although the default color is maybe white. Now you could have the paper in different texture. You can have it as 70 grams, 80 grams, and above. There are different options. You could have the size of paper, but the recommended sizes are A5 and A6. And then the paper itself, you could have them in different quantities. You might sell them in bundles of 100 sheets or 200 or 500 or whatever works for you. Now the pens, you could have pens in different colors of different designs, and then you can have them of different prices depending on your audience. The treasury tags, you could have them in different lengths. So for example, if you're going to be storing paper of higher volumes, then you might want a longer treasury tag. But if the volume of paper is smaller, that's for your storage or something like that, then you might want to buy smaller treasury tags. And because I use Jack's Flexi Jotter regularly, I have long treasury tags and short ones, so I have both. Also, the treasury tags might come in different designs. Excuse me, there are some with plastic ends and there are some with metallic ends. So choose whatever works for you, or you might have both and sell, depending on the demand. So, and of course, if there are different designs, you might also do that. Now, the use of the products. You could use the product with or without a file. So that depends on your budget. Without a file, you can just use treasury tags to hold the paper together instead of using a file. But if you're able to accommodate a file, you might use the rings on the file to hold the paper together. And then that way it suits different budgets. Um, you could also use treasury tags to hold the paper together. Now, how do you source the products? You could get them from suppliers, or you could get them online, or maybe for the paper, for example, you might get your local printer to cut and perforate the paper for you. And you might also tell them to shrink wrap it or also to put it in a package so that all you do is just paste on the label and it goes to your customer. Now let's talk a bit about the business plan. Some of the things you may want to consider. I know I'm starting with the exit strategy, but that's usually something that will come up later on. But you may consider the exit strategy. That's in case you want to give up the business, maybe sell it or something like that. You may want to consider how you're going to monetize the business. You may want to consider how you do your marketing, your business strategy, how you deal with logistics, and if you have a team, how you're going to manage your team. Business registration, obviously, if you're going to run it as a business, you need to register either as a sole trader or a limited liability company, etc. Or you will need to give it a business name. You will need to have a bank account, etc. Now, some requirements for the business. You need to consider storage. Obviously, if you're going to be selling it, if the volume of selling is going to be high, You need to consider where you're going to store the paper. You need to consider suppliers, those who are going to supply you with the paper, with the treasury tags, etc. You need to give some thoughts to the marketing platforms, the platforms where you're going to market the products and services. You need to, you also need skills. So yourself, or if you have a team, you need some basic skills, marketing, IT, basic IT, etc. If you might or might not need a team, depending on the volume of what you're doing and depending on your time demands. You might also need, you definitely need a digital device or digital devices. And of course, you need enthusiasm. And that's part of what's going to run the business. That's going to be the fuel for the business. Now, talking about the process, some of the considerations are sourcing, that's sourcing all the products, the paper, the treasury tags, etc. You also need to do administration. You need to do marketing. Like they say, marketing is the soul of every business. You need to do your packaging. Just to ease the process, you might get your supplier to actually supply already packaged products so that all you need to do is put it in a final package and put on the label and then send it down to the customer. And by the way, the packaging might also involve shrink wrapping. This prevents humidity from destroying the paper. Another part of the process is the logistics. You getting all the stuff and dispensing them or fulfilling them, etc. Now, the monetization plan. How will you make money from this business? Now, some of the thoughts are that you're going to, of course, you need to do the product sales. You'll be selling the paper, selling the treasury tags, etc. You might do content creation. So basically, other people might learn from your business model. And so maybe for all intents and purposes, you might create a book, you might create video, etc. And when people are watching this, they can learn from the process and then you can monetize that. Or maybe a franchise somewhere down the line if it's feasible. Another thing is mentoring and coaching. So if the business model works well, then there might be other people who want to replicate the business model. So you might want to offer mentoring and coaching as a service. And for the mentoring and coaching, you can either have it on a membership site, for example, whereby people pay maybe monthly or annually or something like that to access the content. Or if they want to buy it for lifetime access, then you can sell that at a premium. Also, for the mentoring and coaching, there's the option of them paying for your time to coach them. But obviously, that will also come at a premium price. For example, you might decide to charge £100 an hour or whatever, and then they can ask you whatever questions and you answer them. Another part of the monetization plan is content marketing. Obviously, you can do videos related to the content and then post it on social media. Just to ease your budget, you can do it at the peak periods of when most people will buy your product. So, for example, if you are targeting students, you might want to do it during the school period or just about the time they're about to start school or holiday. So those will probably be the peak periods. So those are some of the ways in which you can monetize the product. Some considerations you need to think about: the size of the products. So for example, you don't want your paper to be too voluminous because it might not go through the letterbox. For example, you may want to consider the weight. For example, if someone orders maybe 400 sheets, instead of selling 400, you might do them in chunks of 200 each or something like that so that it can actually easily go through the letterbox. Another consideration is durability. There might be different price options. If you are selling the less expensive ones, then it may not be as durable as the more expensive ones. But there's something in the market for everyone. So for those customers with a small budget, they might buy the less durable ones. And for those who have a bigger budget, then you can sell the premium product to them. And of course, that way you are considering affordability and you're selling to different wallet sizes. Now, in terms of finance, you need to do your budget. You need to explore funding, how you're going to get money to fund the business. You need to do your cash flow so that you know how soon you hopefully expect to make a profit. And this type of information will be valuable not only to you, but also to your funders. Now, I mentioned franchise earlier. Excuse me. Now, if the business model is successful, then you can actually leverage the success and teach others what you do and possibly sell the success formula and make profits. Just to put this in perspective, for those people who eat in McDonald's and so on and all those big food eateries and so on, not all of them are run directly by McDonald's or KFC. Most of them are franchises. So McDonald's sells the franchise, and then the franchisors, I think, yeah, the franchises, they purchase this franchise at a cost. So they sign agreements, etc., terms and conditions, and then these franchises run the business according to the specifications set down by McDonald's. And then the franchises pay McDonald's. There's an initial amount they'll pay, maybe some tens of thousands, and then they pay whatever it is that they agree on every year. So that way, McDonald's makes a lot of money off being a franchisor. Now, talking about funding, you could explore funding through investors, crowdfunding, bank loans, etc. Now let's talk a bit about legalities. You need to put in place things like refund policy, terms and conditions, and so on and so forth. That way you're able to protect yourself against any possible litigation. Now, disclaimer and expectation management. What I'm talking about is just a business idea and it requires perfection. Nothing is guaranteed, but there's apparent potential for great financial rewards. Now, let's talk a bit about risk management. Now, you need to think about damages. For example, if you are sending the products or services to your customers or clients, the product could get damaged while during the course of postage and packaging, and so they may want to return it. You have to manage that and count your losses. You need to think about disappointments. Maybe you've promised the customer that you deliver within 1 or 2 working days. And for some reason, maybe due to staff absence or sickness or something like that, you're not able to meet that obligation. So you have to manage that. Some clients may create a force. They may ask for compensation or try and do something like that. You have to manage that. Sometimes products may end up in may get lost in transit. So it might not be due to your fault, maybe due to the fault of the postal agency. But the point is that the contract is between yourself and your customer. So if the product gets lost in transit for whatever reason, you probably have to replace that for the customer, and that's at your own expense. So, you have to bear that in mind. Another thing you have to manage, another risk you have to manage, you need to put in a refund policy so that you spell out your terms and conditions. You need to spell out how you refund if you have to refund. There was once the case of one of my friends. He used to purchase CDs. Whenever there was a new CD out in the market, at that time, it was CDs. I think this was in the 1990s. He'll go to HMV, purchase the latest CD, fresh, brand new. He will get to his flat, download it, and then return the CD to HMV and say he doesn't want it anymore. And of course, it was a legal obligation. HMV mentioned that if you no longer want it, you can return it within 1 or 2 days. So this guy played on that vulnerability, and he did that on a regular basis. So he actually abused the process. So back to what we are saying, you have to put in a proper refund policy in place, which will be ethical and fair. So, and it has to be something that will help you avoid fraud, because some people will actually abuse the process. Some might open the parcel or the packaging, take out paper, and then return it to you and say they no longer want it. So that's a waste of your time and resources. So you have to put a proper, robust refund policy in place. And that brings us on to fraud. You have to be able to manage fraud. So, for example, there can be fraud either within your business, or there can be fraud during the course of postage and packaging, or maybe even through the client. For all intents and purposes, the client may have received the parcel and then they tell you they never received it. So you have to be able to manage all that. Another risk management issue is litigation. Normally, things will go on fine, but at some point or the other, there might be litigation, either from the client, from your team, etc. You have to be able to manage that. Another thing which most businesses do, they have insurance to cover most of the risks. So they pay a little bit extra every month or year just to insure against any of these risks. Another thing you have to manage is staff turnover. Staff may come today, they may work. After a week or after some months or after some years, they might tell you, oh, I've got a better job. I'm sorry, I have to resign. You have to manage that. Some of them may be sick. So if they are sick, obviously they can't come to work. So it's either you replace them or you manage additional workload. So that way you still have to manage that risk, because at the end of the day, whether someone is sick or they resign, that's not the problem of the tenant, of the customer. All the customer is interested in is, I've paid for the product and I expect to receive it. So you have to manage that. And another risk I'll mention is technical problems. Yes, we live in a technical age and most things are powered through technology. Now, sometimes there might be technical glitches either from your end or from the post office, or maybe even from the client. Client might pay twice due to technical issues and so on and so forth. So these are some of the risks that you have to manage. There might be more, but I'm sure this gives you food for thought. So as far as the client is concerned, all he's interested in is I've paid my money and I expect to get the item in return. Whatever happens in between is not my problem. So that's something you have to bear in mind. Now, talking about logistics, you have to think about storage. If you're going to be the one fulfilling the orders, you have to have somewhere to store so many paper, the treasury tags, and so on. You need to have suppliers, those who will supply you the paper and all of the products and services. Another thing is order fulfillment. When customers order products or any of your products, you have to fulfill the orders, and you have to fulfill them in time so that there's no unnecessary delay and so on. So you have to bear that in mind. So for all intents and purposes, if you are starting small, you have to take the orders to the post office and then maybe get receipts and or maybe alternative logistics companies, and then you fulfill the order. And another thing you need to manage is returns. Some customers will tell you, I'm sorry, I no longer need it, or I'm sorry, it came too late and I want a refund. So they'll return it. You have to manage that as well, and so on. Now, let's talk a bit about research and development. You need to do research, product research, competitor research, and maybe customer research, and so on. You need to make sure that the product and service is affordable to your target customers. Like I've said, you need to do competitor research. You need to research suppliers to make sure that they are reliable, so that there's not going to be unnecessary delays or disappointments and so on. Now, in terms of the competitor research, you need to research your competitors. Are there people doing the same thing? If so, at what price are they doing it? You need to explore which marketing platforms they advertise their products and services, and so on and so forth. Now let's talk about costing and pricing. There are different things that go into costing and pricing. Things such as time, the time that you spend on the business, the overheads, the effort, the resources you expend, the logistics and their cost. Of course, you need to make profit as well. And any additional costs, you need to actually sit down and articulate what all your costs are. And then you have to include the profit margin, because obviously, if you're running a business, it's because you want to make a profit. So those are some of the considerations, excuse me, for pricing. And of course, if investors are involved, then you probably need to factor that into your costing and your pricing. Now, talking briefly about branding. I will mention about logos, about labels, about the colors of your company, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the considerations you might want to have in mind. So at this point, I would like to take a short break and we'll join you very shortly. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
So, branding. For branding, you have things like logo, labels, brand colors, and things like that. Now, for the collaborators or collaborations, you want to do this with like minds, and those who will complement your skills and resources. In terms of the profit sharing formula, you can basically, there's a product which I'm hoping to do maybe by next year. It's called a profit sharing formula app. I've created content on this. It's on social media. I've actually written a paperback on it, and it's actually on my blog. That's curatedbusinessideas.com. Basically, the way the profit sharing will work, you quantify each collaborator's input, either in terms of money or time or resources, and then you share the profit equitably. It's a fair, ethical way of sharing profits. Now, in terms of the marketing plan, you might need to do videos. You need to put this on different platforms. Marketing as well is not a one-time process. It's a process. It's not a one-time event. You need to have a budget for your marketing, either monthly or annually. You need to hopefully have a sales funnel so that although your main products are the ones you sell, you may have some other things on the funnel so that even though your products, maybe you might make £10 per individual product, just for instance, if you have a sales funnel, you might be able to make multiples of that amount of money. You may want to consider upsells. You may want to consider content marketing, search engine optimization, paid advertisements. You might want to consider social media marketing. You might also want to leverage repeat customers as well as email marketing. Also, regarding the marketing, when you're starting, you might want to test the market. Obviously, it's important to do this before mass production. This could minimize any potential loss, and you may also learn from the experience. So it's just like going into the river and testing the water with one leg in before putting both legs, so that way you can test the waters before taking any major risks. Now, I think we've talked about the look and feel. This is very important, especially for the folder or the file. This could be a determining factor in attracting and retaining customers. Now, how do you use Jack's Flexi Jotter? Now, basically, if you are doing it with the folder, you open the folder rings and you insert the paper. You can do this a little bit at a time, or you can fill in the folder and then you close the ring and then use the product. Alternatively, if you have a lower budget, you can use Jack's Flexi Jotter without a folder, which means you use treasury tags to hold the paper together. Now, in terms of marketing outlets or platforms, you can have an e-commerce store. You can do your marketing on social media. And some of the e-commerce stores are places like Amazon, Shopify, eBay, Temu, etc. And another thing for consideration is reselling. There's the option of reselling some of the products which could be sourced from different online stores. This is especially if you run out of stock and your supplier is not able to replenish the stock in time. So for all intents and purposes, you might purchase similar products from online stores and then resell. Sometimes you may do this at a loss, or maybe you might just be able to break even, but this is just an option. Now, talking about strengths and opportunities, when you embark on this project, some of the opportunities are that you might be able to monetize, you could create jobs, you could create wealth, and because it's a novel idea, you could actually enjoy a monopoly for quite a while. Now, some of the threats to be aware of are copycats, litigation, etc. What's the unique selling point? Well, this is a unique or novel idea, and it's user friendly. It's a user friendly product which could be used by students, creatives, and professionals. Now, finally, the value chain. You could have the entrepreneur, you could have the marketer, you could have someone who will deal with logistics, you could have someone to deal with accounting or administration, you could have a project manager, and of course, you could have collaborators and maybe investors, etc. So thank you very much for your time. That's the end of my presentation for now. Thank you very much.
Yes, so thank you very much, Jack Lookman, for that really interesting discussion about Jack's Flexi Jotter. I have one or two questions to ask you. Now, one of those questions is to do with how you envisage people who buy the Flexi Jotter, how you envisage them using it. What do you think is the optimal way of using the Flexi Jotter? How would you use it yourself?
Basically, I actually have been using the Jax Flexi Jotter for quite some years now. Originally, it was designed to be a file where you file in documents. But for me, I found a different way of using it, and that is by putting in blank A5 paper. So what I do generally, when I put in my paper, usually I put in a title or the purpose for which I'm writing that content. So for example, maybe I'm preparing for a meeting. I'll put
Mhm,
the subject matter. Sometimes most of the time I'll put in a date and then I write in whatever detail I have to write in. And then if I have other projects which I'm working on or other situations I'm dealing with, I use different sheet for that and use the same, I replicate the same process. So what usually happens, because it's very flexible, when I complete my day, I can then refile each individual document to other files. So for example, if there's a file on a project, let's call it project A, all the content, all what I've scribbled down at different times relating to project A, I will then refile on a file which is specifically for project A. And then if there are other bits and pieces, maybe for project B, C, D, I do the same thing for them. And the good thing about it is that maybe for project A, some thoughts might come to mind maybe today, and maybe some days later or some weeks later, I'm updating my thoughts or the content. I can easily do
mhm,
that and then refile all those additional stuff. So, and the good thing about it is that it's very flexible and there are no lines. It's just plain paper. So it's
mhm,
very, very flexible. So that's how I use it. So sometimes you may say it may be a bit laborious because you have to do a bit of, excuse me, a bit of refiling. But the good thing is that, either instead of looking at it as additional labor, you should look at the convenience of filing, the flexibility, and also it's something to keep you busy as well if you want to be busy. So that's how I've used it. So for example, I have quite a bit of files on different projects, and that's how I file them. And then also, if I've completed a particular project, maybe I've finished with a particular project and I want to reuse that file, I can easily remove all the paper that I've filed. I use a treasury tag to hold the paper together. And then I put in a label, maybe on the top sheet, I can put in whatever the title of the project is, and then I file it away. And then I can reuse that file for other things. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, I feel, yeah, I mean, you've answered it like with regard to how you would use it. So then obviously it's for each person who might
Yeah,
want to buy something like that to find their own way of
yeah,
utilizing
yes,
the tool.
yeah.
Apart from that, the other question I wanted to ask is more to do with the potential, well, the people, the in-between people now. So those who might want to buy franchises or what might want to buy supplies of or want to start a business selling Jack Jack's Flexi Jotters. So, which kinds of people do you think might this this tool or facility attractive? Who do you think is most useful for in that way? Entrepreneurs.
Yes. Basically, yeah, this would be useful for entrepreneurs. And it's something you can start small. So for example, if there's of course, the like they say, the job market is very saturated, and we have graduates, professionals, some of them losing their jobs, some of them not having jobs. So if they want to embark on this type of business, all they have to do is maybe like review this video, maybe review the books and blog. And if they want to go a step further, they might actually book a chat with me, and then I can give them more in-depth knowledge. I'll tell them what my thoughts are, and then it's for them to perfect it to suit their own situation. So the cheap solution to it is that they could actually execute this project on their own, or they can order the folder from wherever they find it suitable. They can order the paper. They can start small and then grow big. Excuse me. So, and if they want to have a one-to-one chat with me, of course, that will come at a cost. They can get that information. But for those of them who have actually started the process and want to sell a franchise, for me, my part of the value chain is actually sharing the idea and sharing relevant content. That's where I am on the value chain. But there might be some other people who actually want to actually physically do the business, to execute the business. So in the process of doing it, they learn a few things, a few tricks and all of that. And then they can actually sell it as a franchise to other people. They might sell it to multiple other entrepreneurs as a franchise. And that way they also make money. So basically, those are the lower end of the business spectrum, and those at the higher end can actually benefit from this idea.
Okay, so if anyone wants to contact you with regard to doing that or to consult you about the pros and cons or the benefits actually of going into such a business or even buying on a more retail basis, who do they contact? How do they contact? What are the contact details? Or where is the most effective port of call to reach you?
I'm going to include this when this video is being edited. So basically, they can book a chat with Jack Lookman. This is available at jacksempowerment.com. So I'm going to leave a link to the video on the YouTube channel. And but if they want to bypass that, they can just go to jacksempowerment.com, and then they look for book a chat with Jack Lookman. Sorry, book a chat with Jack Lookman. Alternatively, if they want mentoring on this project, they can look for Jack's Mentoring 101. All this is on jacksempowerment.com. So that way they put in their basic information and then I shall get back in touch with them. And by the way, the first 15 minutes is going to be free, and then thereafter, they'll pay for that service.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for what you've shared with us today, Jack Lookman.
Thank you very
And
much.
I guess we'll be back again in a week's time with some more, hopefully useful information for anybody.
Thank you very much for your time, brother Joel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a peaceful weekend.
Thank you, and you too.
Okay then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much for your time. We hope that you got value. More content from Jack Lookman can be found at curatedbusinessideas.com and jacklookmanlimited.com. You could also get more content from Juwon Ogungbe at juwonogungbe.com. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and reposting. From Jack Lookman and Juwon Ogungbe, Ireo Ire Kabiti.